Leah Granger, and this is Curtain Call, a weekly interview series with powerful women in the arts. I'm your co-host, Leah Granger, and I share the job with Tamara Lana, who will be hosting the program next week. We're presented by FabCollab, which is an arts organization here in Toronto that presents women in the arts, and we're supported by Heritage Canada, or should I say Canadian Heritage? I'm always getting those backwards. Today on the program, we have a wonderful comedian. She's somebody that I've been following for years, hearing her on my favorite podcasts, watching her comedy specials. And she's joining us from, I think, New York. I don't know, maybe she's on the road. That's something that many of our artists are now. Her name is Jess Salomon. And yeah, I think she's here right now. Hi.
Hi. How does
Welcome.
Thank you. I put in headphones. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can. It's just they're like the noise canceling ones, and it like I'm not used to it. I feel like I'm underwater, you know? Let me see how this sound. Hold on. How does this sound worse?
To me, you're exactly the same.
Oh, okay. Let's do this.
It's like the experience is on your end. So whatever's better for you.
I feel like I'm above water now, so that's honestly I only realized this was an IG live like late this morning because I haven't done one of these in a little while and I'm a little out of practice. I'm like, I haven't updated my software. I hope it like I get the message to join. This feels like very early quarantine.
Yeah, but you have done it.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because it was like the thing, right? We're just keeping it alive. We're keeping it going.
I was early days of the pandemic. I was in the woods in Quebec with barely an internet connection.
Yeah.
My Wi-Fi, I was like using my phone as a hotspot, and it somehow worked better there than it does in Brooklyn. But anyway, and holding the phone, we were trying to order like a light or a tripod, and Amazon doesn't barely deliver there. So
the whole thing.
Yeah. Hi, it's nice to see
Well,
you.
you're here now. Nice to meet you.
You too.
It's been a few months that we've been trying to get in touch, so I'm so glad that you're here with us and able to join us at long last. I think I first became aware of you through the Stop Podcasting Yourself podcast. Is that possible?
Wait, which podcast?
Stop Podcasting Yourself with Graham and Dave.
Yeah. That was so much fun, and I realized there's certain podcasts you do, and that people hear you on, and that's one of them. They have like a huge fan base, and they've been podcasting since like I want to say before Mark Maron. I don't know, like
they're like the OGs.
Yeah, totally, and a lot of Americans listen to that podcast and discover Canadian comedians that way. It's pretty cool.
Oh, somebody's watching and wants to know if you're single. Feels like spam.
Sometimes I get these random messages and I'm like, wow, because I've been in this marriage for a while. That's not open. So sorry, everybody. That's my
thanks for asking.
It's always like some random spam bot though, and I click on it and I'm realizing, no, it's not one of those DMs. Yeah.
So maybe I mean, if you could maybe start by telling me, I'm always very interested, especially with comedy. Like, it seems like a lot of people, it's not like the first thing that they do. Like, there's sort of like a before, and then they're like, oh no, this is going to be right for me. So I know that you were a lawyer, that you were a UN war crimes lawyer. In your early days. So how did that come about, and how did you sort of make the leap?
Well, I just thought there wasn't a future in war crimes. Those aren't being committed anymore. I'm thinking about my friends from my prior life who are, as they call for a war crimes tribunal for Putin. I mean, God knows if that will ever come to pass, but I know in their world there's people, applying for jobs and so on. But yeah, I didn't love law is the thing. I want to say though, I feel like as the world moves forward, there's probably going to be some kids that are just the way things are now, and the way how with the internet, you know how things are with the internet and social media. But it seemed like not a realistic kind of career. I don't think a lot of people until more recently would have even considered stand-up as a career you just get into, because I don't think you would even really know how to do it. And now so many people build fan bases doing comedy related stuff online and through podcasting and stuff. So it might be that there are kids that graduate high school and go straight.
Yeah. Isn't there like a program at Humber? I think like at some of the, like at a college here in Toronto, I think there's like a comedy program.
So Humber does have a comedy school, which I learned about when I started going to Toronto to do comedy, and I met people that had gone there, and that was crazy to me. And then more recently, Emerson College or University, which is like a proper school. I'm not to say that Humber's not a proper school, but I think it's like a kind of, it's not like a BA. You don't get like a bachelor, right?
Yeah.
But at Emerson, they are offering a 4-year, I think, proper degree in comedy.
Wow.
I don't know. That was a couple years ago. I went on CBC. They had like a panel of comedians talk about it. I'm conflicted about that stuff. I mean,
really?
There's part of me that is nerdy and does like appreciate a structured learning environment. But then there's another part of me that just thinks this is not how comedy develops or is made, or the best comedy is born, really.
Yeah. And also it's like something that it's like something that you just do like in practice, basically. It's like, I think, I don't know, I feel that way. I work as a journalist as well, and I didn't go to journalism school. And like, I'm sure there's things that I'm missing.
Bullshit.
But it's also like, you just go and do it, kind of. And like, it's something you can just like learn by doing. It's not like being a doctor. I don't know. But
it's definitely something you have to learn by doing. A lot of other things you need a certain skill set, and then you learn other things on the job that you couldn't learn in school. But that's the thing. I think with comedy, I've met a lot of people that are like take a lot of comedy classes, and then they ask for advice about like how to get into it. It's like, no, it's just unfortunately you have to go to an open mic, and now there's like more of a range of open mics that aren't horrible. And I mean, there are a lot that are, but I gather that there is, so much more diversity and people coming up in different kinds of spaces that you don't have to necessarily. I don't know. I haven't been in the open mic scene, but I think it can only be getting a little bit better, marginally.
Well, what was it like for you? Like what? So you were like working as a lawyer where? In Montreal, or?
So I went to law school in Montreal at McGill, and then I went. I worked in the Hague. That's where I worked for the UN. Yeah, in a tribunal that was set up for the former Yugoslavia, and also for Rwanda. Actually, the appeals chamber. So yeah, I was there as an intern, and then McGill has this weird program where you. Well, it's not weird. It's just that in Quebec, there's like the French law system, and in the rest of Canada, it's the common law system, and so you kind of do both degrees. And so I finished law school like in 3.5 years. Some do it in 3.5 or 4. So I had this like free kind of semester, and part of me had always dreamed of. I was like really into skiing, and I was like, I'm going to use that winter to go out to Whistler and. Like, be on the mountain. And I always kind of wanted to do, even like earlier in undergrad, I'm like, I should go to UBC. But if I go to UBC, I'm going to be a ski bum. I'm never going to go to class. So then I forced myself. I know myself, and that I'm not a disciplined person. And so I need to like create a scenario around myself that forces me to do stuff. So finally after law school, I was like, I have this free semester. And I had taken a course in international humanitarian law, and so I applied. There was some internships in the Hague, and I applied and I'm like, if I get it, I'll go do that. If not, I'm going to Whistler. And then I got the internship, and I never went to Whistler. I went there. I worked for a judge. He was like the vice president of the tribunal, just like a very, I liked him a lot. He was Italian and very like small and like energetic and like fun. And then I went back to Canada to finish my like articling, which is this thing you have to do to get the bar. And I did that at the Department of Justice in Ottawa. And I was there for almost, I guess, for like a year. And then I went back to The Hague when the judge that my sprightly Italian judge went from vice president to president, and he was able to bring a staff with him and have like a cabinet, and so so he brought me back, so I got to go work for him properly as a non-intern in his cabinet. Basically, it's like he's like the chief justice of the tribunal, and so aside from all the drier like procedural legal work, there's also like a diplomatic aspect to the job. So briefing the security.
Like, were you enjoying that? Were you like, this is it, this is my path? Like, it sounds like you were doing like really well right out of the gate.
And like, very
really
all or nothing.
Yeah. I know some lawyers, and it seems pretty full on.
I mean, when I in college, when I got into a band, I was like following them on the road. When I got into exercise, I was like, I'm doing triathlon. And now, like, I don't even move. Like, I'm really like, I know I'm very obsessive. I'm also very easily, I mean, less now, but especially when I was younger, I could have fallen into anything. Like, I'm very persuadable, very, like, I could have probably been in a cult. I don't know. Maybe not. I don't know really how far, but I do think that I'm easily influenced. And then, like, especially when I was younger. Anyway, so then I didn't really like dream of being a lawyer necessarily. Was this what we were talking about? Yeah, I didn't really dream about being a lawyer. I just, I got out of college and I really wanted to, like, be a part of the solution, make the world a better place. And I didn't like have any idea of like what that was, but I knew that I had no math or science skills to be able to like build a well or create irrigation systems or like help anyone as a doctor. Yeah, like this is like what my perception was like in terms of, trying to make the world a better place. I was like, I'm not an engineer. Like I'm so bad with that. I like get so weak at the sight of blood. And in the human rights world,
you're like a human rights lawyer.
I really didn't want to do law. Like it wasn't something, but I knew that it would be something that I could do and would be a kind of concrete skill, that you can offer people. Because otherwise in the human rights world, my impression was, and this is not the case, but my young impression was that it was either to be a lawyer or to be like a forensic investigator exhuming mass graves. And I also was like, I can't do that. So law school, so law school was, and then I just didn't really love law that much. There's dogs barking, just in case.
No, all good.
Sometimes it sets her off if she hears them outside. So I didn't really love law that much, and I was actually watching a lot of Jon Stewart's Daily Show when I was in Holland.
When was this kind of?
This was like when Jon Stewart was having like a real impact on the discourse.
Like his heyday. So like
heyday, like getting Tucker Carlson canceled, Crossfire, taken off of CNN.
And he had like really great correspondence too.
Yeah, definitely. And it was just like, it was at a certain point where that wasn't really being done so much. Like the idea that you would point out someone's hypocrisy and you'd show a clip, of them saying one thing and then them saying another thing, juxtaposed, and it was like, oh my God, this is horrible. But now, so I thought as someone who wasn't in comedy, but who appreciated it, and always loved storytelling. And I was starting to feel like maybe law wasn't for me. I started to see what he was doing and thinking like, oh, wow, comedy could really be a form of advocacy. And which isn't like a great way to think about comedy, but from my law brain at that point, someone who had never done comedy, it just seemed like there were other ways to, I don't know,
to like connect with people.
Do things in the world, reach more people, where you weren't limited to legal writing and research. Yeah. And I was really blown away by what he was doing and was a huge fan. And then, you know, fast forward to like moving to the US, 2016, Trump getting elected. And I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, it somehow doesn't feel like satire is going to save the Republic. And then there are all these young lawyers at JFK when the Muslim ban hit, who were there with their laptops, you know, trying to like, and in many cases helping people who were stranded.
Right.
Yeah. I had a moment of like, and at that point I was like, well, what's Jon Stewart doing? He's like upstate with this like animal farm rescuing dogs.
Where is he now?
And Tucker Carlson is like living his best white nationalist life, you know? Like,
yeah. But like in between those two things, you like moved into comedy. So like where and how did that happen? Like was that in Montreal or was that somewhere else? Because I know you ended up in New York, but you're from Montreal. So where did you sort of like take the leap and start like writing material, performing material, like thinking about this as like something that you could do?
So it's the idea started in The Hague when I was watching The Daily Show. I should say it was also like, this was like the time of like torrenting shows. So I was really watching The Office, because otherwise I would have been limited to like Grey's Anatomy in Dutch, you know, and Grey's Anatomy is still on the air. It's insane to me. Anyway, all of this has happened, and the whole time Grey's Anatomy has been on the air, which is so nice. Anyway, so I was watching comedy stuff at night and see my workplace as more and more of a sitcom that a lot of people do. I think a lot of people have that experience maybe in their workplace, but I just thought it would be such a fun, interesting thing to write a sitcom that takes place in a war crimes tribunal. And it's like, you know, procedurals are already so popular, like law shows, like why not just, you know, so that's been like a long-term off and on project that I've been developing. But yeah, I started, so that was like originally the impetus was like, I'm just going to take a few years off. I didn't know anything about comedy. So I was like, I'll just take a couple of years off. They like me here enough. It's, you know, I'll try to, you know, write this show or try comedy. And if in like 2 years, I don't, like have my own HBO special and TV show, like, I guess it's not for me, no harm, no foul. I'll just hop right back into law, you know, they'll take me.
I love your confidence.
Because I just didn't know, I didn't know anything about comedy at all. And originally I wasn't thinking about stand-up, but I was thinking about writing the show. And then I started, so basically I left The Hague and I went back to Montreal, and I was in a relationship long distance with someone. That was another thing. So I moved in with her, and I had like a pretty nice cushion to like start doing stand up. And Montreal's a pretty low key city, so I did a class actually at the comedy club. And,
oh, you did?
Yeah, and I kind of immediately started doing open mics like as the class was going on, and that's just that was just how it started. And I got hooked on stand up. And it's just so much more, you know, immediate and exciting and out there and with other people than just trying to figure out how to write a script alone. And, you know, so that, I guess, that's
so it wasn't like a scary thing. Like it was like kind of an enjoyable thing for you, like out of the gate.
I think,
pretty good.
I mean, I definitely didn't have control of the room but you know, when you're new, you don't really it's better to like not know how bad you were. I'm not like, you have to have some level of delusion, and some people have it like
For sure.
so much confidence, and they have no jokes, but they just have so much confidence that the audience is like entertained watching them, you know, because they're not feeling nervous. The audience feels nervous for comedians, and
100%. Yeah, you're like scared.
yeah,
And
and
you're
many
scared
times now I'm not scared at all, and I feel like I'm projecting confidence, and they're like, oh yeah, that like, I don't know how you do that, you know, that's right. And I'm like, oh my god, no, like don't.
My friend just took a comedy course here in Toronto, and I went to the student show. And I was like really shocked at how good some of the women were. Like, it was crazy. Like, some of them I was like, this is an act I would watch. Like, they just seemed like exactly what you're saying.
Wait,
Like,
why
they
did
just
you think the women would
afraid.
be bad compared to the men?
No, it was like all women except that there was one, the person, my
Oh,
friend was a guy. No, not like the
just
women
how you said
specifically.
it, I was like, this is it's like a feminist women's lift up women's podcast.
Yeah, I
I
totally
couldn't
is. That
believe
was
it.
like
The women
really,
were
really
funny.
good. I'm like, the women were shockingly good. No, like they were like great. Everybody was great. My friend was amazing. But like it was just like this like young woman like came up like who was like starting off, and it was just like so impressed that somebody could just sort of like I think it's just like kind of a natural thing for some people.
Yeah, and some people come from a background where they've done other kinds of, you know, they were like in school plays, or they did improv before, or sketch, or dance, or they've been on stage before. Some people come with that. I didn't come with any of that. I had
Right.
I had I think better jokes, but way worse like presence and delivery than some people. Like, I think, you know, some people, you come to it with some natural gifts, hopefully, and some other parts of the package that you are going to be harder for you to
That you craft, that you hone.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you're like a cerebral person. You know what I mean? That like, well, you come from this like very like a big education and like a lot of like deep thinking and you know. But then I guess
I've gotten so much stupider over the years.
that's good. Dunsa's funny.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's like a combination of just, you know, all the time I've spent on the internet versus like reading books, whatever COVID's done to my brain, and yeah, just years spent. At a certain point, your brain kind of shifts to seeing things from a comedic standpoint, and this idea of, you know, I really have this message across. I want to get this message across, and it'll help if it's funny. You reach more people.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask you if that's like survived. That sort of.
I mean, I do sometimes write from a place of something that's making me angry, but that I've gotten some distance from enough that I can find the funny part about it. So it is still like it's definitely a source of inspiration, but the idea of like writing backwards from a message to a punchline is, it's sort of like I've said, it's like a judge who reasons backwards from a conclusion that they want. You know, it never seems organic.
And that doesn't seem like quite the right way to do it.
No. And yeah, and if most of your audience is clapping and not laughing, that's like a good indication that if you're doing the Che Diaz, I don't know if you saw, and just like that, the second version, the new version of Sex and the City. Okay, well, it's like it's so bad that but it's like a car accident you can't look away from. I couldn't stop watching it. It was horrific. But one of the horrible parts about it was this horrible / amazing was a character played by Sarah Ramirez, who's a non-binary stand-up comedian named Che, who I don't want to give. Well, I guess it's not a spoiler. This was all over the internet.
Go ahead and spoil.
Ends up like hooking up with Miranda, and there's like scenes of Che and at like filming a Netflix special, but they call it a comedy. They keep referring to it as a comedy concert, and it seemed like I know this wasn't written by Fox News to make fun of what they think a progressive non-binary comedy is, but it really sounded like it was.
No, that sounds terrible.
Like, this is
But
not
also
how
made
we do this at all.
people loved it though.
I mean, there's another season because like everyone
Really?
watched it so much and couldn't stop talking about it that of course it's like gonna be on forever. I mean, I'll watch it again. I'll watch the next season.
Yeah, it's like you can't look away.
No.
Well, can you tell me about meeting Iman?
Oh yeah. So my wife Iman, who's like not in the apartment right now. Yeah, you were asking me. We are in Brooklyn. That's where we live. She went on the roof of our building to talk to her therapist because I guess we had this at the same time. So we met doing stand up. So my wife is Muslim and Palestinian, and was on the comedy. And I'm Jewish, so that's like part of our shtick. I mean, it's like our life, okay? But a lot of people are like, oh, I've seen this shtick before. Like, okay, like they think it's like not real. They think it's just like an act. It's like, we're not that committed to comedy that we would pretend. I mean, I would say if we ever got divorced, we might pretend we were still married because it's where we make the bulk of our money. But, you know, she was on the comedy scene already for like a year and a half or 2 years, working at the main comedy club. The comedy scene in Montreal in English is small. Yeah,
I was wondering about that because it's like we think of Montreal as this like center just because of the festival. But I'm also like, but it's Montreal. Like everything is 2 languages and everything sort of is like half because of that, it seems like.
Yeah, because it's not a small city, but in French, it's like people are full on celebrities, and French audiences appreciate the talent in that province more than Canadians give a shit about Canadian art. Yeah, so I met my wife. She was working at the comedy club. She was straight. I gay converted her to gay, not to Judaism. And I wasn't thinking of her at all in any romantic way. I had my own relationship stuff going on. She, you know, wasn't gay, and we started getting to know each other. She was doing, I mean, it is a small scene, number one, but she started putting on these shows called Kosher Jokes for the Holidays. Amazing title.
Amazing title.
Yeah, bringing Jews and Muslims together at Christmas, since that's a time we both don't have much going on. Yeah. And she noticed that the Muslim comics and the Jewish comics on the scene kind of had a natural affinity for each other, a similar sensibility, and that this was like something that would be fun to celebrate. And so we kind of got to know each other a little bit through. So it was like 2 years before anything happened romantically. And we do talk about that story in our special, Marriage of Convenience. You can find it on YouTube or in Canada on Crave. Okay. Actually, in Canada, you can find it on YouTube too, but I think it costs like $1.50 or something. The moment that we like got together romantically was it was the 2 of us and a friend of ours who is a comedian who's very Italian, like picture Belushi brother. Right. And he I won't say his name, but anyway, he wanted to have a threesome, and that's like what planted the seed. We didn't have a threesome, but eventually Iman and I ended up together, married. You know, whatever guy had told me for when he brings over shots, just that the 2 women he's encouraging to kiss will go off alone and start a lifelong relationship without him.
Sure, that's what it was, exactly what he was imagining, and not the exact opposite of what he was imagining.
Totally, yeah. It's a PSA. You know,
I'm sure he's happy for you.
No, yeah, he is. He's married now. Yeah.
That's amazing. It's cool that you guys also like had all this time to know each other before that happened, you know?
Yeah, and then another thing was, so it was 2 years that there was nothing going on. I mean, I was kind of trying to be friends with her because I was new, and as you try to make friends in a new job, you know,
Yeah.
and she was, Iman was someone who was like working at the clubs, so she was like bartending and kind of doing some of the booking, and then she ran this thing called Boom, Best of the Open Mic, and it was a Sunday night monthly, like I guess at the open mic, yeah, at the open mic people would vote, the audience would vote, and then the winners of each open mic that month, or top 2 or 3 or whatever, would perform on the Sunday. And sometimes like the booker from Just for Laughs would be there, and it was you know, a big show, and she was in charge of that. You know what, and then after we got together, it was a long process because she wasn't gay. She'd never even been actually in a relationship. Nobody tell her I'm not the best. She has no idea. Never been in love.
No point of reference.
No. Before she comes back from the roof in her therapy. And so it was like the first year she was like breaking up with me all the time. And, you know, it was like very like on and off. And then there was like the long process of coming out. But we didn't like, she didn't want to come out in comedy. Because she like had her act and like the gigs she was doing, and she was just sort of at a point where she was getting some TV stuff, and her whole act was like what her life was, which was being a single straight party girl, you know. And
really?
Yeah, like I can't even remember some. I mean,
that's
it's so funny to see like
reflect on,
the early jokes where that's like the Mitsumi Takahashi. I don't know if you know her in Toronto, but big Anglo news anchor celeb in Montreal, been doing CTV forever, and she'd like describe this guy like 6'2", red hair, blue eyes, you know, like this criminal is on. She's like, you know, that sounds like my type, or I'm like totally butchering. But anyway. No, there's another joke that I found on YouTube from before I started, that like one of her earliest closers that anyway, I won't tell it to you because it's just too much. But anyway, so there was like so 2 years of just like nothing. Then we like hooked up because our Italian friend wanted a threesome, and then for the next 4 years, no one in comedy knew. And it wouldn't have really been like it wasn't my decision. It was more just like trying to like respect her choice to be in the closet and who to tell. And I understood that comedy was like it's also my profession, but it was also hers. And like, as long as in our personal life, our friends and family and whatever knew, and I wasn't like lying to them, it was, you know, not, I understood. So what happened is that I had another 4 years in retrospect, which was good, to not be in like a comedy couple. And also because looking back on it, maybe people would have been like, anytime I got a spot or something at the club, maybe they'd be like, oh, that's because Jess is dating Iman or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like any workplace relationship.
Yeah.
You know, a bit. I mean, it's not, but
it is. And that was like the main, and especially in a place like that where it's like, it was like the main club and hangout, because there was another club, but this was the only club that had a bar where people hung out attached. Right.
Like the comedy bar here.
Yeah, like comedy bar, except for it's called the Comedy Works, and it shut down. And then I think everyone was, I mean, the club owner, he didn't really keep up with the times, and he had there was a real heyday, and it was an amazing spot. He was like weirdly like not weirdly right wing, that's pretty common, but like you know, like what is it, like socially liberal but economically conservative or whatever. But he would say that, and then meanwhile the club ran as a complete nonprofit operation, because I don't think anyone there ever paid for a drink. Like, I don't think any single comedian.
Really? So he was not practicing what he preached.
No, it was like but it was a very fun place, and but it was like to have a thing not work out and that person work there. not in a like sexual harassment or whatever sense, just in a like, oh, it's awkward, we broke up way. That would have been. So when we came to New York, before we got the green cards, but when we were here for like a good stretch of time, deciding whether or not we were gonna go home and apply for the green card, I proposed to Iman, and she posted the picture of like my ring, you know, and that's how everybody found out that we were a couple. And
did you know she was gonna post it?
What?
Did you know that she was gonna post it? Was she like, I'm gonna do this and like tell everybody, or like was this a surprise?
No. She told me she was. I mean, I was. She posted it. I think I was with her, but it was just like a bomb of a post because
everyone knew you guys too.
Everybody knew us, and everybody like saw us hanging out all the time and traveling to New York. But it's like, I don't think nobody suspected it. And so many people couldn't believe it because they hung out with us a lot. And I don't know if it's because she was like straight and also her being Muslim that maybe made it like more unbelievable that she would, you know, even my parents, they were like kind of cool with it at first. Because they were like, she's never going to come out. Like, whatever their, like, ideas and stereotypes were about Muslims, they're like, oh, she's going to get honor killed, you know? And then when she didn't get honor killed and we got engaged, then they were like, oh, fuck. And then they got, like, and then they had some issues.
Really?
But, yeah. Because then they saw that it was actually going to be a thing and we were getting married. And, but in the comedy world, it was funny because my best friend did know. Deanne and Deanne Smith, and they were like, you know, understanding and so supportive, but also like, could you come out about your relationship? Because I keep calling you my best friend, and meanwhile, you're always with Iman. You're always traveling with her. Like, I look so stupid.
It's like, well, I think she's my best friend.
I know. And then we like came to New York, and there were these two guy comics that were in New York, and we were chatting with each other outside of a club, and they were hanging out. And they're like had this joke that they on stage as well, but they had no money, and they were sharing a bed. These two straight guys in New York, like from Toronto, that were in New York for a few months, and they're like, oh man, and you guys like it's just so much easier for you because you can just share a bed and it's fine, you know? And we're like, yeah, it works out okay. You know? They're like, but here I am with Kevin, you know, like, oh, waking up every 2 minutes, making sure he's not touching me, you know, like.
Well, that's crazy. So you guys like, it might, especially also that to go from like nothing to marriage, like for everybody else, it's like, not only are you guys together, but like, you're in the like, long-term loving committed relationship.
People are like, and everybody at that point was like still on Facebook and like kind of, you know, there were so many social medias, so people like definitely saw it. I'd say it was like Ottawa, Toronto, Montreal. I mean, she was straight, she was not in a relationship, and then it was like, hey.
So then like when did you guys start working together? When did you develop this like duo side of your careers? Did it come too quickly? Or
when did our marriage start falling apart?
I mean, that wasn't what I meant, but tell me.
No, just joking. No, it definitely is. It is challenging. It didn't really come from us. We at some point started doing jokes about each other in our act. And then, you know, we'd often be on a lineup together, or we traveled and like co-headline a club together because it was fun to travel together. It's for sure, in many cases, like safer. And you also, like if I'm alone and traveling for comedy in a city, like the odds that I'm going to really go into the museums and do all of the tourist stuff are pretty slim. But if I'm with her, I'm like much more likely to do it. So when we went back to back on a lineup and we're doing jokes about each other, it just, the audience, I mean, it's impossible for them not to start to put it together. So the second person always has to do a reveal, or they're not going to hear anything you're saying because they're just going to be in their head, like being like, wait,
wondering what.
How many of these kind of couples? Because like let's say like a straight couple, the same race and religion, whatever.
Yeah.
They're talking about my girlfriend, my boyfriend, whatever. It could be anybody. The next part of the couple could get up and talk about their girlfriend or boyfriend, and no one's gonna like. But if you're here and you're like, and I'm Canadian and my wife is Palestinian and we moved here just before Trump and then a Palestinian woman from Canada, it's just with a Jewish wife. So people started to want. They were like, oh, like maybe you could go on stage together, and it started like slippery slope from like a club that sprung a well, what if you do a Q&A after your sets? And then that kind of it started with I guess the first time was the BBC World Service was doing a show during Just for Laughs Unconnected in Montreal, and I say in 2018, and anyway, and they asked us to try to go together on stage. They were recording it, and we're like, well, we've never done that before, so maybe the first time shouldn't be like a recorded thing for like a large audience. And then they said, well, just do your own sets, and if it's bad, we'll use your separate sets. And then it went well, and then just for laughs, they're like, why don't you guys do something together? And even though, like, honestly, I thought it was so bad at the beginning, we both thought, like, this is not good. Just the novelty of it was so fun for the audience that it gave up for it not really being smooth in any way. And now it's been in 2019 at Just for Laughs we taped a special, the Marriage of Convenience special, and then it's really mostly it's where we get our work. We have our cartoon account.
Who draws those cartoons?
Oh, so the cartoons are drawn by a friend of ours named Jesse Brown. He lives in London, England.
Okay.
And he is the husband of my first friend in the world, my oldest friend. We grew up together. And he drew us for our wedding invitations. And he does it anyway. If you haven't seen them, if whoever's watching, they're like these beautiful watercolor.
They look like New Yorker. They're like really beautiful, great cartoons with your jokes, basically.
I know it makes me laugh so much at how they're kind of minimal in a certain way, but the way that he adds like a layer of comedy with our facial expressions. I mean, there's one that has Iman like waking up in the morning like looking so disheveled, and it's just this like cartoon. Anyway, it makes me laugh so much. Some of the ways that for our wedding, he drew us really, really thin and really beautiful on our invitations. And my mom was like, wow, very nice. We're like, I think we should work with it. She's pretty critical. And I'm like, we should work with Jesse. Anyway, and he does a lot of my graphic stuff for many comedy posters. He's great.
It's really, And you guys, anyone that's watching, you can get all the merch.
Oh, we need to really update that. I think we have what is it? Is it Shopify or I don't know? It's not Spotify.
It's like one of the things where like you can get the art on like any item.
Yeah. But I haven't like updated the art in a while, and we do have a thank Allah for Hala bag that we can mail you. That we have some here that we sell at shows. But we're gonna if that's been on the list, work out the mailing list, work out the. And also now like with Instagram, it's like you have to put reels up. If you just put a picture of a still cartoon, I feel like the algorithm is working. Is not showing people stuff. So
what's your website again? Someone's asking.
The what? What's the site? Oh, it's is there a way to put it in the thread? It's at the L Salomon. So the TheElSalomons.
The L Salomons, right?
Yeah.
She'll find it. She's our other host.
Oh, okay.
She's on it.
Okay.
We'll put up. It's awesome. I was just like checking it all out. It's great. I love merch. But I was gonna say it's like you don't like see very often. I mean, maybe that I can think of in the world of comedy. It's like the duo to me is like such an old school thing. It's like Abbott and Costello, like Laurel and Hardy. Like I'm like, why doesn't anybody do it anymore? And like, which of you is like the straight man? I mean, obviously neither, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, what is your like dynamic? Like, how would you describe like who you are and who she is sort of like when you're doing bits? It's like, because you're very different, you know?
I think I'm a little bit more the straight man, I'd say, because I'm like more the type A one. And
right.
The arguments we have on stage that are like, they come from real life, but as they play out on stage, it's usually me kind of offering what I think is like the sane perspective of the situation and like dealing with Iman, you know, either the way that she drives or, you know, practically feeling like she was gonna, you know, we were gonna get COVID because of her like obsession with having to with food, you know, that wasn't made at home, or you know, there's yeah, we just have, and also because, and then we have some material about her being very like over the top and PDA, and I'm a little bit more, I guess, reserved. And so it's fun because a lot of couples will see themselves, even though we're so different as a couple in that we have these different identities. Like just a lot of us, you know, straight couples, people of the same religion, they'll still be like, oh, I'm so the Iman or I'm so the Jess in the relationship.
Highly relatable.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely, it really is. I think, and I mean, especially, yeah, couples I think are the ones that when we're doing the duo, really hit the most with. The duo act, though, yeah, it's true. It's not that common. It is like a real throwback, especially in the marriage dynamic. There's a couple of very well-known duos that are siblings or twins, and their dynamic is fascinating to watch, and it's so fun because it's kind of like one brain,
right, telling
one thing, like, you know, doing a bit together where they're finishing each other's sentences. And in our case, it's very yeah, an argument. It's basically a fight where a lot of I mean, comedy kind of build tension and release it with a punchline, but I guess a lot of the tension, and it's not intentional, but is like, are they really fighting? Are they, you know, and sometimes we kind of are.
Are they angry?
What did you say?
I said, like, do you guys, like, do they think it's funny, or are they actually like legit angry at each other?
I mean, I think that's like keeps the kind of the tension in the room that hopefully we release with laughter. I mean, you know, in a big show, like it's much more kind of prepared, but sometimes we'll go up on like more casually at a bar show in New York. And I mean, we had this one very real, but I mean, I think funny moment where Iman, number one, was late to the show. When she got there, she decided to get a drink, even though the producers were like, I mean, you're like, people are like, the person on stage was going long for her to get there, and then she walks in and she decides to take a time to like get a drink at the bar. And I'm always happy when it's like I don't have to be the one to say something to her. So I was like, you know, she's at the bar, if you should go tell her just that it's the show time, you know, and that way, like, it's somebody else and it's not coming from me. And then we got on stage, and there's a joke that she does that I don't think is funny, and we like sometimes we'll say like, let's just do these jokes, whatever. And I'm like, I don't know about that one. I don't really like, I don't think there's any point to it or whatever. Anyway, we're doing the act, and she decides to do this joke, and it bombs. And so I like, I can't hide how happy I am. And like, cause I'm like laughing, and then, but the audience doesn't really know.
Like, why?
And then until like she explained to them that she explained it as if like I'm taking pleasure in her failure, which I absolutely do not. I want her to succeed, of course, but and her success is my success. But in that moment, I had said like, that joke is not good. It's not going to do well, and she decided to do it anyways. And when it bombed, I was like.
And although she was late, and you were like, come on.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, how has like the public reception been to you guys as a duo? Like, and like the comedy scene and sort of the public in general, like, because you know, like we're living in this time where it's like, oh, everybody wants like, you know, diversity and like women and da 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 da. But then also it's like there's still got to be like a lot of prejudice that you guys are dealing with. I don't know, like what has it been like for you?
I think, you know, when we moved here, when we moved to the US, it was just before Trump, and we had, you know, big ideas about like what a big market it was, and traveling a lot and going a lot of places.
Yeah.
And that kind of, after that, we got, you know, nervous about going to just any, you know, some place, like some red parts of the country. And
Yeah.
I got nervous about like, yeah, just the politics and the guns and the, but there are still so many places where we don't experience any prejudice. I think that, yeah, I mean, we're also like most of the time in New York or cities like New York, where, I mean, it really feels, especially like people under, you know, I don't know, 25, that nobody is straight. So I don't even like,
Right. Totally.
that really hasn't been an issue. I think in our career, I would venture, and with some audiences too, in these progressive places, the bigger stumbling block is Israel, Palestine, which we, you know, we talk about openly, and you know, because a lot of these places are very progressive on every issue except for that one. So, and it's hard to know just like how big of an impact negatively it's had. Oh, she's back. I'm on my Instagram live. Oh, the dog. Esther, come say hi. Come say hi. You know who's not controversial?
This guy, girl.
This is Esther Honey. Hi.
I've seen this little lady before.
Oh yeah. Well, she has her own Instagram account.
she's semi-famous herself.
I know. She's cute.
Can you tell us? Can I ask you another question, or did you have more to say about that? Sorry, I don't want to cut you off.
No, it's fine. The less I say, the better. Which is like the whole thing.
Because this is like very light. What I want to ask you about is that you were you performed on Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and I always just am like curious about like what it's like to be on those. What it's like those. I don't know. I love late night, and like I've always I've just always watched late night and like love all the different hosts. So what was it like? What was it like being there and doing?
I love talking about that. Because it was just like exactly as you would imagine it. It didn't disappoint in any way at all, and I was like pretty excited about it. The booker is actually he's Canadian originally.
Okay.
He was so helpful, and because it tapes in New York, I was able to. He invited me to go the week before and watch another stand-up, Nate Bargatze, who's amazing and done Fallon a bunch of times, and so I was able to see like what it looked like on a night that it wasn't my night. Walk through the backstage, see what the room looked like, the stage, watch the whole like intro, and be in the audience for Nate's set. And Jimmy Fallon was so sweet in his introduction of
Really?
Bargatze, but I was like, well, they're like, he's done the show a bunch of times, they're probably friends and whatever. And then when I went, I just the thing with Jimmy Fallon is, I mean, he gets a lot of flack for being like someone who breaks easily and laughs at everything, and like ruffled Trump's hair, and like probably negatively like upholding the status quo or whatever. But let me tell you, when it's your time to go out there, and it's especially your first time, that's who you want, you know? Like you want the guy that's like so friendly, going to be so welcoming, going to be at his desk laughing at your jokes, like
Totally.
And he truly, like, I was behind the curtain waiting to come out, and it wasn't like a warm-up guy. It was him. He was out there with a photo of, like, you know, printed out my album. Just like, her mom is here, give it up for her mom. Those are her friends, like really like personally getting them going. And I am literally nobody. I've never done the show before. And so sweet. Took a picture backstage. The whole like 30 Rock thing was, they sent a car cool. When I got out of the car. They like the security guy like kind of like kept the tourists that are like around there. They were like, "Ooh, is this someone from SNL coming out?" And I was like, "Hey." They're like, "Yeah, we don't know who this is."
You're like, maybe one day.
Yeah. And just the thrill. And my wife was so cute. She did a little after party. And everybody waited there because my night they taped 2 episodes. It was actually it was around this time in 2019 because it was a Passover Easter weekend. Okay. So they were taping on the Friday. So the Monday they taped 2, and the episode before me was Cher. And wow. Yeah, and it was and she took some time doing different like takes. I mean, there's a Broadway show about Cher, and that's what they were doing. And there was like the cast, so there was like young Cher, medium Cher, old Cher, real Cher, like. And it was really great. She everyone was very excited to meet her, which not meet, like we weren't able to like meet her, but when we heard that she was gonna like walk through the hallway backstage, I was in my dressing room, and along with everybody else just kind of like casually like went to the doorway, to try to just catch a glimpse. And as she walked by, this was such a reflex that, thank God, I don't think she heard it. I was like, great job. Like, as if it was like another comic coming off stage.
Right.
But it was Cher, Anyway, I don't think she heard it.
You like started singing If You Could Turn Back Time, like in your Cher. That would be my impulse.
Would it? That's so funny. She looks incredible.
Really?
Yeah. And it was just, it was just a very cool experience.
Yeah. Great. That's like exactly what I wanted to hear. Those are the details I was looking for. So thank you.
Yeah, because some of the late night show hosts aren't there when you're on stage. It's like pre-taped. And
wow.
It's like they like just throw to the comedian, and then they put them on. But it's not like they're there and they come and shake your hand, or they don't like cut to them at the desk laughing because they're not there. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome that you had such a great first experience.
Yes.
World. What are you up to now? Like what projects are you working on right now?
This is the main project here.
It's going pretty well.
It's going good. So we're taping the 3rd season. We're sort of at the midway point of this 17-week run. It's season 3 of our BBC World Service podcast, Comedians versus the News. And that's the fun thing about that is we get to meet comedians and chat with comedians from all over the world. And it started when we were in lockdown and in the lead up to the last American election. And then we had another season in lockdown, and now we get to go to a proper studio. And cool. It's fun. I mean, the only downside is if you do listen to it, I just want people to know that we are a lot funnier than we come across. No. They barely let us say anything. All the best jokes are cut, but yeah. So there's that's going on, and we're going to be at Just for Laughs in Vancouver.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, doing part solo, part duo.
I'm going to miss that by a couple of days. I was so sad. I'm going to be in Vancouver, but I don't get there till the 29th. You're there on the 27th, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
The 27th. I think we're going to be doing, in June, we're going to Pittsburgh. We're kind of just starting to like add some dates. But Iman is going to be leading me for a younger woman. No, she's going to be leading me for a tour in Canada with Rick Mercer that's put on by Just for Laughs.
Oh, wow.
It's a really great lineup. Well, it's Rick Mercer, Iman, Dave Merhej. Who else is in Iman? Ivan Decker.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, I think it's like a 30-city tour. I didn't know there were 30 cities in Canada.
Wow, where did I?
Yeah, so we'll be meeting up in Vancouver. She's leaving for like a full month.
Wow.
So if you're in Canada and you want to see Iman without me, how dare you? No, please do. We also want to have solo careers. She's going to be in pretty much like every city in town.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And where can people find you if they want to like just like check out when your shows are going to be or what you're up to or find your specials and stuff? Like what's your web internet?
So I have a link tree on my Instagram. It's Jess_Salomon, which I guess you can see since we're on Instagram right now. Salomon. And it's the same handle for Twitter. On TikTok, it's Jess Salomon Comedy. I haven't been on there in a little bit. I have to, you know what? I'm going to be doing the thing, cutting up the clips and subtitling them. I'm going to be doing that, and booking some more dates on the road. California and Pittsburgh, I know, in June. We're going to be around San Francisco, actually, June 23rd. And other than that, yes.
Watch your special. Watch your special. Everybody can find your special on Crave or on YouTube.
Yes. Marriage of Convenience. If you search on YouTube, it should come right up. I think the link is also in the link tree. Yeah.
That is amazing. I thank you for giving me so much of your time and giving all of us so much of your time. You're like an amazing storyteller, and so it's just easy to get.
Thank you so much. I had a great time talking with you. I appreciate you guys having me on, and this was very fun getting reacquainted with IG Live.
We're still doing it. We're never going to stop.
Don't. Why not? I mean, it's so nice not to be on a Zoom. Look at all these hearts for IG Live.
Yeah, and like people watch it while it's happening, and then actually like a lot of people watch it after. It's like really built a community. Like, I mean, a lot of the people that we have are in Toronto, but we've done it, like we have a lot of connections to Spain randomly and other places. So it really has built this like random, because it's been doing it for about a year and a half every week. So it's like a lot of the people that have been on it keep watching it, and I don't know, it's cool.
That's
it's
good
fun.
for you with the weekly content for that period.
Right? Pretty proud. Because you know how it is. It's hard to do. It's hard to keep it going. So
yes, it is.
I'm going to talk to comedians as a non-comedian. Like most of the stuff I listen to is comedians talking to comedians. So I'm like, I want to get in on that. So this is my little sneaky way.
Comedians are so happy to talk. So that is not a hard thing for you to get in on. And I know you're going to have Iman on to give her side of the story.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for this. We look forward to hearing what she has to say about you. And everybody follow Jess, follow the L Salomons.
Yes.
And yeah, have a wonderful day. I really appreciate you joining us here today.
Bye. Say bye, Esther.
Bye. Ciao.
Bye, guys. See you.